Sorry. Appreciate you hearing this bill. This is the mutual aid bill. As you know, this affects only Kansas City metro area. Currently, Kansas City is divided by a street in Missouri and Kansas. So we have some situations in Kansas City where our police officers would like to be able to help each other out across the state lines. And this bill is a mutual aid bill that allows them, with agreement with Kansas, for officers in certain circumstances to help each other out. And I have a number of people here testifying in favor of this bill. I would be glad to answer questions, or we can let the experts answer.
Questions for the sponsor, Senator Justice.
Just quickly, does this take Kansas making a legislative change to have this happen, or can they do it for some sort of thing?
My understanding is they require legislation.
And was that something that they looked at this year, or will have to be a next year thing? You know where they are?
I don't know, but Fred
Okay, cool.
will know the answer.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Okay, sir, do you want to call your witnesses? Or you want to chat?
I think Fred Carroll's here, and he'd be the first one.
Okay. Mr. Farrell, you want to come forward?
Ferris. Sorry.
Ferris, Mr. Ferris, sorry.
Sorry, Ferris.
Officer Ferris. Or is that
Sorry.
Sergeant Ferris? All right. Please forgive me if I'm never in your jurisdiction.
Thank you for allowing us to appear before this committee. I'm Fred Ferris. I'm with the Lenexa Police Department. I'm also the president of the board of directors for the Kansas City Metro Tactical Officers Association, which is an association of the tactical officers in the Midwest, encompassing Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Oklahoma. We actually picked up Luxembourg, if that means anything. It's about 1,000 SWAT officers from those states, about 70 different agencies. And we presented a position paper on an issue that we've been trying to deal with since about 2003, actually a little bit earlier than that. The Kansas City area has been recipients of an incredible amount of Homeland Security funding from Missouri, Kansas, and the federal Homeland Security to put together a regional response capability for incidents of terrorism or weapons of mass destruction. That really began the discussion as where 8 of the departments in the metro area, 6 on the Kansas side, 2 on the Missouri side, donated their SWAT teams to this regional capability. In the event that we had an issue in the Kansas City area, that team of 180 SWAT officers could be mobilized to respond anywhere in the region to deal with that. They've been trained, equipped with an incredible amount of funding that came largely from the 2 states to put that team together. The problem that we haven't been able to address is how do we get half of that team from one side of the state line to the other, because they're law enforcement officers. Fire department and EMS have had that luxury forever, because they don't have the potential for using force and the laws that go with that. So they've been able to bounce back and forth across the state line, help each other out, respond in each way. What we're asking for in this bill is the ability to give law enforcement agencies under 2 very distinct circumstances the ability to do that, with a lot of safeguards built in to make sure that it's not an abused power. The first circumstance would be a critical incident. If we had an active shooting, an incident of terrorism, something that we needed to mobilize that team or the regional assets, we have that ability based on the NIM system of using the incident commander to make that call. The field commander at that level can make a call and request those regional assets, those police officers to come across the state line and give us a force multiplier in those circumstances. The second circumstance would be a non-critical incident. And as we examine how to fix this one problem, you can understand that it developed a couple of other problems we haven't been able to deal with in that area for a long time, is the fact that we've got a lot of regional assets and a lot of regional capabilities and experts that would like the ability to be able to help each other out. And unfortunately, because of that state line and those jurisdictional issues, we can't do that. So in non-critical issues, such as the Metro Squad, for example, or meth lab teams, or just the ability to use an agency from one side to the other, the safeguard would be built in is that the chief executive from one agency, being the chief or the sheriff, could make that request directly to the chief or sheriff of another agency, and make sure that it's not being handled on a field level, that we don't have officers from Kansas out running radar on I-70 because this law exists. That would never happen, because the only authority would come from that call to assistance from one chief executive to the other chief executive. The critical incidents, the example that we used in describing this to you all was the Ward Parkway shooting in 2007. Ward Parkway Shopping Center sits virtually off of State Line Road. Two of the first officers into that shooting in the mall were legally Kansas police officers. Had those officers taken some action, they'd have been touted as heroes for a couple of weeks, and then someone wanted to sue them because they were Kansas officers in Missouri. We don't ever want officers that are trying to do the right thing and responding to a call for assistance to have to go through that kind of scrutiny and not have to be afforded the protections that they would just for doing the right thing. So what we're looking for is a very limited scope of authority, with safeguards built in, the checks and balances built in, that it's under very limited circumstances, more critical incidents where we can mobilize those forces and not have to worry about a governor signing a governor agreement and things like that.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Senator Justice.
I'm sorry if you said this, but where is Kansas on similar legislation? Have they introduced it yet? Or?
We we had a sponsor on that side. We had actually a senator and congressman in Kansas that were trying to get it on the agenda. Their schedule is a little bit different than yours. We thought we had it on, and then they got kind of hung up on the freedom of religion bill that was going through, and we probably read some news on that. It really kind of sidetracked things. We're very confident that it will be on the next session's agenda because we'll have a much earlier start on it. We kind of came in on the tail end. We've got support on it on that side. We've got support from Kansas Attorney General for it, and as well as the chiefs and sheriffs on that side of the state.
And can you tell me, just out of curiosity, because I'm from Kansas City, and one of the issues that a lot of the neighborhoods right on state line on our side bring up on a day-to-day basis is they feel there's a little more crime in the couple of blocks on either side of state line because of the issue of not being able to. I guess the perception is that a criminal could rip off someone and then just dart over the state line and be safe. You just get over there and you're safe. How are things handled now?
Well, that's really kind of a different story. I mean, we're
I realize this is critical and non-critical, but how are the non-critical things handled
Well,
now?
it depends on, it's just like any other investigation, it's going to depend on leads. Normally that would be handled through warrants. If it was somebody that was fleeing from the police can chase under fresh pursuit from one side of the state on the other. That's really the only example that laws give police that power if they're in fresh pursuit. If that was the case, that they're fine.
Okay.
The investigative side of it, that would be handled just like any other investigation. But you do bring up a good point. Crime doesn't know the state line boundaries in our area. Most people that drive through Kansas City can drive in and out of Kansas from Missouri 10 times and not even know they crossed the state line. Crime doesn't know those boundaries either. Neither do bad critical incidents or shootings. We have the ability to multiply our police force in those circumstances, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for our witness? Thank you for coming. Make sure you fill out witness forms. Next witness in support of Senate Bill 991.
Hello, my name is James Simpson. I'm the Chief of Police of Liberty, Missouri. I'm also here as a board representative for the Metropolitan Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. The Metro Chiefs Association is the law enforcement executive bi-state group of Kansas and Missouri of the chiefs, the sheriffs, and the prosecuting attorneys. I'm here in support. We've had nothing but positive comments about this. I'll give you a little background on how this would affect the Metro Chiefs Association. If there's a homicide in one of the outlying cities, usually Kansas City, Missouri has a large enough investigative cast to handle their own stuff. Places like Liberty, Gladstone, some of the Kansas side places, you can't do everything with the size of your town. And you can't provide the expertise for everything that you need to. I have a very difficult time getting enough people with expertise to respond to homicide investigations, arsons. For example, I have a very experienced arson investigator on my agency who's nationally certified. This would enable him to be a force multiplier for other agencies on the other side of the state. And this would really enhance our capabilities as far as that state line we all face. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Thank you. Thank you. Further witnesses in support of 991.
Senator Justice, good morning. Good to see you again. Colonel Hugh Mills, Under Sheriff, Jackson County, Missouri. The witnesses today represent largely the Metropolitan Tactical Officers Association, of whom Jackson County Sheriff's Office is a part. I speak primarily today for the sheriffs of the region, Platte County Sheriff Owen, Sheriff Vescovo, and Clay County Sheriff Deal in Cass County, and Sheriff Sharp in Jackson. Currently, Missouri sheriffs by MOU can move to assist each other with a phone call or a radio call. That condition does not allow itself beyond the state line when we talk about sheriffs versus police departments. Our technology has increased since Katrina so that all of us can talk to each other across that state line. I can talk from Jackson to Platte to Clay to Johnson County. But the forces cannot move across that line unless legal barriers are scaled. So this legislation goes a long way to correct that. We support it on the sheriff's side and would ask you to consider it as well. Any questions for me?
Are there any questions for this witness? There are none. Thank you for hearing. Next witness in support.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Larimore. I'm the Chief of Police in the Shawnee, Kansas Police Department. And today I'm here in the capacity of the co-chair of the Law Enforcement Subcommittee of the Regional Homeland Security Coordinating Council with Mark. I've been involved with this project since 2002, and it's kind of early that we've been trying to cross for all these years. The bomb squads are different than we are. They have federal conditions, but they're in much smaller number. There's only about 25 to 30 bomb squad officers in the Kansas City area, and they were able to do this through a federal commission. And we pursued that, but we weren't able to do this. As Sergeant Ferris said, it is something that we've introduced on the Kansas side, and I can guarantee you that we will charge very hard next year to get this done on the Kansas side. Any questions?
Any questions for the witness? Thanks for hearing today. Any other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon. My name is Gary McMullen. I'm a captain with the Riverside, Missouri Police Department. I've been there about 20 years. The unique facet with Riverside is that we border Kansas City, Kansas. And weekly we see the need for the relationship between the Missouri side and the Kansas side, where we might need to send our units, or Kansas City, Kansas send their units over to Missouri, either with the Chevy dealer, or the Chevy manufacturing plant that they have there. We have the RBC Casino and a large bank there in the Parkville South High Street. So I'm here to represent the city and Chief of Police Greg Mills in support of this bill. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions? Thank you. Make sure you follow this form. Anyone else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 991?
Hello, my name is Terry Story. I'm a major with Independence, Missouri Police Department. I'm here representing the Independence Police Department, Chief Tom Bailey. Chief Daly's on the Mark Law Enforcement Subcommittee. He's signed me to come here to tell you that we do support this change in the statute. One thing to know is we already have mutual agreements with all the agencies around Independence. And upon their request, we will respond and whatever is necessary. One of the things that I major over is the special operations, which is attack team and EOD. And we get quite a few requests for assistance through that, through our police department. The only change is we can't go across the state line. We do have a mutual aid request. So we're here to request and hope that you support that so we can assist any agencies in Kansas.
Any questions for the witness? Thanks for coming. Anyone else wishing to support 991?
Good morning. I'm Mondo Jamerson. I'm Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Community College in Kansas City. We have campuses in Jackson and Clay County. And I support this legislation simply because in time of need, we can't let a state line prevent us from getting help from people when we need it. Also, I think it's important for everyone to know that this legislation should not and is not intended to have an impact or decrease anyone's liability for wrongdoing. If we need our brother and sister officers to come across state line and help us, they're still allowed to act in a prudent and careful manner and do things in accordance with the law. This is more about authority than it is about liability. And I think that was a big question earlier on about liability, who gets blamed for what if something goes wrong. Prior to being the chief at the Metropolitan Community College, I was a highway patrolman. I retired in November as a captain. And as a sergeant with highway patrol in Black County, I participated in many metro squads where I was investigating homicides in the state of Kansas. And the only thing that protected us is nothing went wrong. So with this legislation, it will give us some kind of protection. It will give us authority to act if we should have to. Right now, that does not exist. And it's just like anything else. You really don't know there's a problem until something bad happens. And this will prevent that problem. This is kind of getting ahead of the curve, so to speak. And thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you for coming here today. Any questions for this witness? Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 991? Anyone wishing to testify in opposition to 991? At your own peril. Anyone wishing to testify for informational purposes only? Okay, that'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 991. House Bill